So we're going to learn some basic integer vocabulary words, and we're going to do that by making a foldable. So we've got this piece of paper. It's a half of a piece of printer paper. I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it not exactly in half again, but I'm going to leave myself a tab here so that I can label it. And on this little tab, I'm going to label it as integers, the basics. From there, I need to divide this into 5 different equal sections. 5 equal sections. That can be a little bit tricky, but it's going to be about an inch to this last one up here is going to be really small. Something like that. Try to make them as equal as you can. Maybe in 1.25 inches, something like that. And then I'm just going to take that and I'm going to cut on the crease to make a little tab. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs. And our first vocabulary word that we need to learn about is integer. And an integer, we're going to put the definition on this side, we're going to put examples on this side. So the definition of an integer is it's all the whole numbers and their opposites. So that would look like, we're going to call this a set, and it would include more than this, more than we can write here, but these are just some examples. So -3, -2, -1. 0 is included in that definition because it is a whole number. 1, 2, 3. All those counting numbers that you have dealt with since kindergarten, maybe even preschool and before that. 1, 2, and 3, 0, and all their opposites. So -1, -2, -3, and so on. So that is integers. So the next one that we're going to look at would be opposites. So opposites can include hot and cold and those kinds of things. But for math, when we're talking about opposites, one of those numbers is going to be positive. The other will be negative. Something special about opposites is they have a sum of 0. When you add opposites together, you're going to get 0. And they have the same distance from 0 on the number line. So some opposites, some examples that go over here. The opposite of 5 is -5. The opposite of -2 is 2. Now, this could also be called the additive inverse You can put that AKA, also known as additive inverse. Could also be known as zero pairs. And that's opposites. So the next word that we need to learn about is positives. Positive numbers are going to be, if we're talking about a vertical number line, like on a thermometer, that will be above 0 on the number line. Or if we're talking about a horizontal number line, that will be to the right of 0 on the number line. And again, these numbers are the numbers that you've been dealing with most of your life. So since we're so used to dealing with them, we don't write that positive sign. The positive sign is understood to be there, meaning a number is positive if no sign is present. Examples. It's football. If you have a gain of 12 yards on a play, go Vikes. That's a positive thing for the football team. If we're dealing with money, if you find money, that's good for you. If it's payday, if it's a deposit, that's going to be a new word maybe for some of you, deposit. Profit may also be a new word. Earn. Those are all positive things when we're talking about money. And then another example, I'm going to draw some Purple Mountains Majesties. Just imagine that those are mountains, okay? So if we're talking about maybe the Rocky Mountains, 14,864 feet above sea level, that's a positive thing. Sea level would be representing 0. 14,864 feet above sea level is a positive gain there. So then the inverse of that would be negative. And my color choices here are deliberate. Red is typically the color we associate with negative. So if someone says my business is in the red, it's not a good thing. It usually means that they're in the hole, they're not making money, and they may close their business soon. Negative numbers are, if we're talking about a vertical number line, that would be below 0. On a horizontal number line, sorry, I just said that backwards. Vertical number line. And then to the left of 0 on the horizontal number line. And it's different from positive because you must write the negative sign. So if we're talking about football, If your team has a loss of 7 yards, we would write that number as -7 yards. And that's a bad thing if that's your team. If we're talking about money, if you were robbed or stolen, if you had money stolen from you, if you've purchased, because that money is no longer in your pocket, you gave it to somebody else to buy something, you have lost money. That is a negative. If you have debt, we represent debt with a negative sign. If you withdraw money from your bank account goes down, that is a negative. Withdraw. Those are all negatives when we're dealing with money. And then when we're talking about elevation, those are waves. If we have 13,796 feet below sea level, that looks like -13,796. Okay, if we're talking about the Marianas Trench, that's what that looks like. It's a negative. And that would be under the surface of the sea, the oceans. Last one. It's going to be absolute value. So when we're talking about absolute value, we're talking about what is the value of that number. And we can find it by finding its distance from 0 on a number line. You can count the number of spaces. And it is always positive. And the way that that is written, it looks like maybe they wrote the ones too long, but those are absolute value bars. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. And the absolute value of -7 is 7. Absolute value of 3 is 3. And the absolute value of -11 is 11. So that's what we have for our vocabulary for integers. So you're going to stick some glue on the back side of this and glue it into your journal on the next empty page. And that's what it will look like. Please be sure to enter that into your table of contents. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.